Hello everyone, I'm Charlie, and welcome back to the series Justice Explored, a Student Study Journal. This is entry number 5, and we're finally tackling the first question of the study guide. You can find a link to the guide in the video description or the comments. Let's first take a look at the question. Question 1. There are times when the only way to prevent harm to a large number of people is to harm a smaller number of people. Is it always permissible to harm a smaller number in order to prevent harm to a large number? The short answer in my eyes would be no, not always. But let's look at this question from many angles and try to answer it. Firstly, let's think what Bentham would say. Bentham, coming from his perception of utilitarianism, will likely argue that it is permissible, if not obligatory. Bentham's principle focuses on the greatest happiness for the greatest number. Since the question is simply quantitative, it works nicely with Bentham's theory. Now let's go over what Mill might say. Even though Mill also supports the greatest good for the greatest number, his opinion would be a little different from Bentham's. His qualitative differentiation of pleasures introduces a degree of complexity to the utilitarian calculus. It's not simply about how many people are impacted, but also about the quality of pleasure or pain involved. Additionally, Mill's harm principle adds an aspect of individuals' rights to the calculation and suggests their freedom can be restricted when in order to prevent the harm of others. This could potentially complicate matters if the harm caused to the smaller group is significantly severe or infringes on their fundamental rights. This question very clearly highlights that in moral philosophy theory and practice do not always align. While in theory, a utilitarian might agree that causing lesser harm to prevent greater harm is the right thing to do. But in the real world, factors such as the quality of harm and the rights of the individuals involved can make this a challenging ethical dilemma. Now for my answer. As I said in the beginning, no, not always. The answer to this question is heavily context dependent. It depends on how many people are we sacrificing for how many, the quality of the rights that are being sacrificed, precisely what are we doing and why. On the surface, my view does quite look similar to Mill's theory. However, it's in my opinion a topic which can never be extracted from the specific context. I don't think any theory can ever match every situation. For instance, think about vaccinations. The development of a new vaccine might involve potential risks to the small group of initial test subjects. But the benefit, if successful, could be the prevention of a disease for an incredibly large number of people. Utilitarianism, especially Bentham's version, might argue that the overall good of preventing harm to the many outweighs the potential harm to a few. I would generally agree with this. However, how are the test subjects selected? Have they volunteered? Are we testing on prisoners? Or have you perhaps forced a vulnerable group of society, perhaps those with mental health problems or children, to act as our guinea pigs? This fundamentally challenges the morality of this decision for me. But now, let's consider a different scenario. Imagine a town is being terrorized by a criminal gang, and the only way to stop them is for law enforcement to use tactics that could potentially harm innocent people. Even though more people will be safe in the long run, the immediate harm inflicted on innocents might be seen as ethically unacceptable, especially from Mill's perspective, where individuals' rights and harm prevention are prioritized. In my opinion, however, it again is more context dependent than this. If, for example, we are talking about a localized criminal gang intent on running a nationwide drug trafficking and dealing network, and the police are simply stopping and searching anyone in the area on suspicion alone, this could arguably be justified. However, if the police tactic is to simply arrest or even kill anyone living in that neighborhood to wipe out the gang, this is unacceptable since it would severely harm innocent people. These hypotheticals illustrate how the rightness or wrongness of an action can be altered context by context. The utilitarian framework could suggest that it's permissible to harm a smaller number to prevent greater harm. However, this can drastically change when you consider other moral theories and values and individual rights. So philosophy doesn't always hand us clear-cut answers, but it equips us with the tools to tackle these complex issues critically. But what about you? What's your opinion on the question? Do you find yourself leaning towards Bentham or Mill, or perhaps a different perspective altogether? Comment below, and I'll see you in the next entry.